Today's lesson is lesson 2.5, Greatest Common Factors. Our two objectives are to identify factors of a number and to find the greatest common factor of pairs of numbers. So a greatest common factor is the largest number that two or more numbers have as a common factor. Why do I need to know how to find the GCF? Well, we use the greatest common factors to reduce fractions to lowest terms, which is something we'll be working with in the next unit. We're going to use the ladder method to find the greatest common factor, and it has 5 steps. The first step is to write the numbers and draw an L. The second step is to find a common factor and write it to the left. The third step is to divide by a common factor and place answers underneath. We repeat steps 2 and 3 until the only common factor is 1. We then draw a G around the common factors and multiply. Let me show you how this works. Let's say I'm trying to find the greatest common factor of 28 and 40. Step 1 says to write the numbers, and they're already written for me on my screen, and they're written in your notebook as well. And then draw an L. So I'm going to draw an L to frame my two numbers. Step 1 is done. Step 2, find a common factor and write it to the left. A common factor would be a number that I can divide both 28 and 40 by. I see that they're both even, so 2 would be a common factor. I write it to the left of my L. Step 3, divide by the common factor and place the answers underneath. So 28 divided by 2 is 14, and 40 divided by 2 is 20. Step 4 says to repeat these steps until the only common factor is 1. So I draw an L, and I choose a common factor, a number that I can divide both 14 and 20 by. They're even, so a common factor would be 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Now the only number I can divide both 7 and 10 by is 1. Which is what I want to get to. I want to have the only common factor to be 1. So now I'm at step 5. Draw a G around those common factors and multiply them. 2 times 2 times 1 is 4. So the greatest common factor of 28 and 40 is 4. Let's do a second example in our notebooks. Step 1, write the numbers and draw an L. The numbers are already on my screen and they're in your notebook as well, so frame them with an L. Step 2, find a common factor and write it to the left. So I want to think, what number can I divide both 18 and 32 by? I notice they're even, so I'm going to start with a common factor of 2, and I write it to the left of my L. Step 3, divide by the common factor and place the answers underneath. 18 divided by 2 is 9, 32 divided by 2 is 16. And I repeat the step until the only common factor is 1. Well, the only number I can divide 9 and 16 by is 1. So I've finished step 4 and I'm on to step 5. Draw a G and multiply. The greatest common factor of 18 and 32 is 2. I want you to do these 3 problems in your notebook. Pause the video while you're solving them and press play when you're ready to check your answers. So in today's lesson, we learned how to find greatest common factor using the ladder method, and we met our 2 objectives: identify factors of a number and find the greatest common factor.